Jake, got a little creative deal structuring video to show you today. I'm going to talk to you about the little deal I just got under contract. And here we go. This is a little basic starter house, south end of town. 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, 1 car. Probably got something just like it in your marketplace. And here's some of the numbers. Best comp I've got 100, 105,000. Well, actually, 104.9 was my best rehab comp. That's within 6 months. Coming into fall, so I'm being a little conservative here, 100 to 105. Rehab at the house, I came up with 11,000, adding 20% in for miscellaneous. But let's round up to 15,000 on the high side just to be fairly conservative. Here's our basic rehab formula. If we go from a conservative retail number, 100,000 at 70% minus the rehab, we come up with an offer price of 55,000. Okay, if it weren't October when I'm doing this video and having this house rehabbed pretty much right during when it's ready to sell, right during holiday season, I might not be so conservative. Okay, because that's probably going to conservative myself right out of the deal. But if I look at the realistic, the normal formula, not taking into account the time of year, you get 105 grand at 70%, minus 11,000 in repairs. Again, not being conservative on my price, not being conservative on my rehab, I get an offer price of 62.5. Okay, so that's kind of a range that we would want to be in. So that's the offer I made. I made the offer of 55,000 to the seller. I went through the justification process, did all that stuff. Originally, the seller wanted $100,000. When they called in, or actually they submitted their information on my website, they wanted $100,000. That's what they asked for. Now, after my first visit to the house, or first conversation, I kind of walked through expectations, and the seller said, well, probably the least I could do would be around 80. So obviously, if somebody's going to drop 20 grand, I've got somebody who is, well, let's say fairly motivated if they're going to drop that much that quick. At the house, after going through my presentation, after making a $55,000 offer, she just said, I can't do that. I can't take that little for the property. And again, I walked through the numbers again, and I said, what is the least you'd be willing to take? And they countered down to 65,000. So I asked, well, if I can offer you that, well, actually, let's do this first. Let's take the net numbers looking at the deal. We got 105,000 selling price. I'm going to take 10% off for commissions, seller pay concessions, inspection contingencies, any of that gotcha stuff. Minus 15,000 in rehab, minus the price I'd want to buy it, 55 grand, and we're going to plug in what somebody would pay for points. I have the equivalent of 5 points and 12% interest for hard money cost, and that would leave us a net profit of 18,000 and change. Okay, not a bad little deal for a $100,000 house. Okay, here's what she was proposing. $100,000, 105 retail, minus 10% selling, 15 in rehab. At 65, I'm paying the same points and interest, but now I'm left with a 73, $7,000 and change profit, which is pretty marginal. If I look at, well, what if I don't get 105 for it? Let's say I only get 100. That cuts 5,000 of my profit. Not really worth the risk of doing it. Now, I could maybe get by with the 11,000 in rehab. I could maybe, if I'm paying cash, I can eliminate the cost of the funds there, but it's still fairly thin. Let me show you what I did. And this is a good example of terms making the deal. So we still look at the same 105,000. In this case, I'm going to take 10% depreciation off of this, because where I'm going is, instead of forcing a retail sale, because if I don't get a quick a buyer to buy the house quick at my number, let's say I offer it on a lease purchase and it takes me a year, 2 years to sell it, I could lose. I potentially in this market we could lose value. So I took 10% off for depreciation of the property. I'm going with 5,500 in rehab. Okay, this house was actually rehabbed in 2006. So the kitchen was done, the baths were done, carpet, paint. I mean, has the nice old built-in for the big screen TV. I mean, it's nice, but and appraisal-wise, that kitchen versus me doing new countertops and new appliances, not going to affect the appraisal one iota. But I'd have to spend the money in this market to make it look like what other rehabs look like. Because if I'm not keeping my eye on the competition and mine doesn't look as good as the competition, I'm not going to get mine sold. Okay? When I'm doing a lease purchase, so long as I do everything that's going to keep my appraisal where it needs to be, I don't have to do all the same, I don't need a stainless side by side in this house because the retail competition is. There's no other lease purchase houses like this in this area. So I don't have to do that. And invariably taking all the things I wouldn't have to do cuts my rehab down to 5,500. So now I'm purchasing at 6,500. And in this case, I'm offering her $600 per month. Okay? I didn't mention that I was paying interest. So it's $600 per month, principal only, off of that. I'm giving her $6,500 up front, 10% down, and $600 per month until resold. And there's no balloon on that. So if I lease purchase it, if it takes tenant buyer 2 years to exercise, and again, taking 10% off for the property going down in value, I've got a $38,400 profit. Okay, that does not include cash flow, and that does not include non-refundable option consideration. If the property stays the same value, you can add another 10 grand and change to that number. Let's take it out 4 years. If my first buyer doesn't buy it, if I do another lease purchase, it takes 4 years, I've got a $52,800 profit. And the beauty is both of these profit long-term capital gains. That's going to save me a ton in taxes. So anyway, hope you can get a little glimpse on what terms can do to make a deal profitable. If you can't meet someone's price, how can you use terms to give them what they want and get a deal that's going to make sense to you at the same time? So I hope you appreciate that. You want some more good info? Check out my new blog, michaeljake.com. I've got some great blog posts on wholesaling, retailing, creative finance, everything you got there. And my normal site, localmentor.com. Stop by and say hi. All right.